It being 2022, you might not recall two right-wing activists, I would say operatives, Jacob Wohl, Jack Burkman. But back just a couple of years ago, they were almost constantly in the news for one or another ridiculous stunt attempting to take down people like Robert Mueller or Nancy Pelosi or whoever, usually alleging that they had been sleeping with dominatrices or strippers or something. Well, they're back in the news, and for something they got up to back in 2020. It was an election robocall scheme, and they've now pleaded guilty in a Cleveland court to a single felony count of telecommunications fraud over this scheme. You can see these operatives here. I'd forgotten about them, really. Anyway, what they did was, well, according to prosecutors, they targeted thousands of minority voters with pre-recorded messages that falsely claimed that they could face mandatory vaccination or be tracked by law enforcement if they voted by mail. They've been accused of trying to dissuade literally 85,000 voters in urban areas across the country through robocalls that included this sort of misinformation, literally in many different states. And that is seemingly, you have to do all of that for it to qualify as illegal and for there to be consequences. Just doing regular robocalls, I guess, is fine. Lots of politicians do it. It really needs to end. But they have actually now pleaded guilty, and that is great. They're facing other investigations as well, some of them having to do with those robocalls, Farron, but this is an interesting little throwback to pre-pandemic days.
I know. When I saw this headline, late yesterday, I was like, oh my God, I remember those guys. The little fun press conferences they'd have out in their driveways. The big buff like Navy SEAL dude they brought out that, yeah, he's sleeping with Elizabeth Warren, and everybody was like, good for her. But
get it.
What gets me is just the audacity of these kind of schemes that we see from Burkman and Wohl. They knew, I mean, they had to have known at least what they're doing is illegal, but they did it anyway. And now here we are 2 years later, they're just now pleading guilty. They're each probably looking at, I think, a maximum of 1 year in prison. That's it. I mean, there's no telling the kind of damage that they did in the 2020 election. We don't know if people were in fact intimidated and did stay home. Like you pointed out, tens of thousands of people received these calls. So this is a very minimal punishment, I think, for what these two individuals did. But the fact they did it in the first place, just blatantly lying, making up the weirdest conspiracies ever in this robocall. And they thought they'd get away with it. I don't know. I can't understand that at all.
Like, have they ever caught anyone for putting up? This happens every single election. Posters saying, due to unprecedented interest in the election, Republicans are going to be voting on Tuesday. Democrats are going to be voting on Wednesday. Those go up literally every election. I've never seen anyone go to jail for it. I think it was a good gamble for them to think that they would get away with it. I'm a little bit torn on the potential sentence. As you say, considering the damage done, a year does seem short, but I also think I would not want to spend 23 minutes in prison. And so a year, that seems pretty bad. I'm always torn in that particular area. It does seem weird that of all of the things they did, all of the attempts to defame public figures, that this is the one that they're getting caught on. That seems so weird. They're just gonna get away with having that guy standing with an AirPod in his ear, so he looked like Secret Service. He was literally just a guy with an AirPod. What a weird thing. And also, can I just say something that's gonna make me seem super naive or, I don't know, childish? It would never occur to me, and I would never do, putting together a robocall that you know is a lie and sending it out to lie to voters. It is so against literally every instinct I have politically. Like, imagine knowingly lying to people about stuff this consequential. I understand I shouldn't be new to the concept of crime. I know that people kill each other and stuff, but I don't get it. Just hold positions that are reasonable and persuade people towards them. Isn't that how this is supposed to work? I can't conceive of actively lying to people like that.
You know what?
Anyway.
I will trade I would be willing to trade, let these guys get off the hook scot-free for their robocalls. If the federal government could instead track down the extended warranty people and throw them all in prison forever. I would trade the extended warranty people for Wohl and Burkman. They can walk free. Put those, because I actually, when I purchased my car, as the first new car I ever got a year ago, I did buy an extended warranty. And by God, I still get the damn phone calls. Like, no, I've got one. I don't know what you want from me, but if it turns, you know what? If it turns out Wohl and Burkman are behind those robocalls too, look, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions.
You should have a press conference about it, I think. Anyway.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.